Good afternoon, everyone. It is July 31st, 2020 at 4:32 p.m. Eastern Time, and this video is brought to you by BioTrust. It's really important to keep your body healthy and youthful all the time, and collagen is probably the closest thing we'll ever get to a real fountain of youth, while also forming a wall of defense between your immune system and the rest of your body. 75 to 90% of your skin, bones, joints, and tendons are made of this age-defying nutrient. The older you are, the more likely it's probably caught your attention, and for good reason. Many health experts now agree that consuming collagen is as crucial as it gets to renew and revitalize how you look and feel. So make sure you visit my page at healthwithbeans.com. Secure your supply of the best collagen on the market. I love it. I use it. I use a lot of their products, actually. It's a really good company, and I'm so glad that they're sponsoring. Make your hair feel more lustrous, your nails get more strong, fix your skin. When you get older, you get the skin stuff happening. Women know. But it's good for all of you guys. I don't see anybody in the chat, which is very strange. Hi, Truth Seeker. Hi. So thanks, BioTrust, for sponsoring this video today. I just published an amazing column by Bill Rice on uncoverdc.com. And I wanted to go over this one with you. It's actually really, really good. And I just wanted to read it through. Hello. Hi, everyone. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Tim. Should be very short. Should be about, the chat's very slow today, so just bear with me. Should be a pretty short read, but I wanted to go through it so you guys can share it in video form with your friends and family if you find it valuable. So Bill writes, for millions of Americans, the public response to COVID-19 won't deliver a psychological body blow until or if college football is canceled. Increasingly, this looks like a real possibility, especially after the news that 18 Florida Marlins baseball players tested positive for COVID-19. It is the growing number of these, quote, positive cases, which is scaring the daylights out of people. However, someone needs to mention that positive cases do not necessarily equal sick people. Someone should also point out that the vast majority of athletes who test positive are actually asymptomatic. Read, not sick at all. As a resident of college football-loving Alabama, I was keenly interested in COVID-19 test results of Alabama and Auburn football players. Per media reports, 8 Crimson Tide players and 3 Auburn Tigers have tested positive for COVID-19. However, all 11 athletes were, quote, asymptomatic. I'm also a fan of golf. From piecing together several stories, I learned that 8 PGA golfers have tested positive since the sport resumed competition. Again, 100% of the golfers who tested, quote, positive were asymptomatic. And as far as the population at large is concerned, the CDC tells us that 40% of COVID-19 patients never develop any symptoms. According to other studies, as few as 10% and as many as 80% of people who test positive for the novel coronavirus are asymptomatic. At least based on my sports page research, I'm inclined to believe the higher estimates are a better reflection of reality. Of the stories I've found that identify the number of positive athletes who are asymptomatic, I'd estimate at least 90% of these athletes were asymptomatic. One story that caught my attention didn't involve athletes, but other healthy, well-conditioned people in their early 20s, members of the West Point 2020 graduating class. According to CNN, 15 cadets who attended this year's graduating ceremony tested positive for COVID-19, and all 15 were asymptomatic. The pattern is clear. Large numbers of teens and young adults who have tested positive for COVID-19 are not actually sick. Mass fear accruing from asymptomatic positive cases are a new phenomenon. According to author John M. Barry's account of the Spanish flu, it wasn't people testing positive for influenza that alarmed the masses. It was the large swaths of people spanning all age categories who actually became sick and often died. Indeed, in 1918 and 19, young adults died in extraordinary numbers, according to Barry. This has certainly not happened with the COVID-19 pandemic of 2020. By now, I've read countless articles about whether college football will take place this year, and if so, in what manner. In every one of these articles, quoted authorities highlight the central role athlete safety will play in any decisions. Still, few, if any, of these stories mention the one statistic that would seem to be the most germane to the topic. Namely, not one high school, college, or professional athlete in the country has died from COVID-19. According to one NCAA study, nearly 8 million Americans participate in organized athletics at the high school level, with another 480,000 playing NCAA college sports. If we include non-NCAA sports as well as professional athletes, approximately 8.5 million Americans play organized sports. This means in the 7 months this virus is said to have been circulating in America, the probability of a high school, college, or pro athlete will die from COVID-19 has been exactly 0 in 8,500,000. If I missed 1 or 2 fatalities, these odds would decrease to 1 in 8.5 million or 2 in 8.5 million. By now we know who does die from COVID-19: elderly people with comorbid conditions. Indeed, approximately 45% of fatalities have occurred among residents of nursing homes, and only 0.42% of the country's population, or 1.4 million people, live in nursing homes. Restated, 45% of America's COVID deaths have come from 0.42% of the population that lives in nursing homes. 0% has come from current athletes aged 14 to 35. As a society, we've collectively descended into Alice's surreal rabbit hole when, quote, experts and, quote, authorities and pundits who accept as gospel the pronouncements of said experts propose banning sports in order to protect a group of athletes who literally have almost zero risk of dying. That said, it's certainly possible that one or perhaps even several football players could contract the novel coronavirus and ultimately die from COVID-19. But if the possibility that 1 or 2 players might die due to their participation in this sport carried great weight, football would have been abolished 120 years ago. Every year, approximately 12 players die from playing the game. On top of this, hundreds of thousands of participants suffer injuries that send them to a doctor or hospital. Given these facts and the obsequiousness of the "if we can save one life, it's worth it" argument, why haven't more safety crusading pundits, public health authorities, and politicians called for the elimination of football? When presented with statistics that might reveal hypocrisy on the safety issue, opinion makers dial up a rhetorical misdirection play. Their argument quickly becomes, even if the safety of players won't be affected in any statistically significant way, the safety of others could and would be. For example, it is inevitable, we are supposed to believe, that at least a few older coaches will contract the virus and die. However, most high school assistant coaches are in their 20s and 30s, an age group that almost never produces COVID fatalities. College assistants are a little older, but most don't even qualify as middle age. Every state has a handful of head coaches in their 60s. These coaches perhaps should consider taking a sabbatical for the year, although one presumes these older and wiser individuals are capable of assessing their own risks and making their own decisions on whether to assume these risks. What about all the other people football players were invariably come in contact with? Classmates of high school and college athletes will also experience essentially zero risk. According to the American Council on Science and Health, quote, deaths in young people from babies to college students are almost non-existent. Of the 103.26 million Americans under the age of 25, only 151 deaths have been attributed to COVID-19 as of June 17th. Expressed as a percentage, this is a case fatality rate of 0.0002. Given that the median age of a high school faculty member is 41, the vast majority of these educators will also experience no alarming risk of dying from COVID-19. A more persuasive, quote, health argument for canceling high school and college sports is the 6 degree of separation argument. This argument posits that at some point, the infected football player will infect someone who infects someone who infects someone who will infect a person who is at a higher risk, which statistically speaking would be a nursing home resident or someone over the age of 80. Of course, such high-risk people know this and one assumes are now taking maximum precautions. Still, even in a world where most Americans are now required to wear masks, a chain reaction of coughs and exhales could end up touching the one category of the population that is confronting legitimate and serious risks. However, the logical extension of this argument, keep the students and football players home to avoid spreading the virus well downstream, move society closer to a solution that would keep sizable segments of the population confined largely to the safety of their dens. While such indefinite lockdowns would presumably reduce the number of positive COVID cases, they would also kill an economy that's already on life support. Generally speaking, journalists and politicians do acknowledge that efforts to ensure safety for the public could have devastating effects on the economy. However, one gets the impression most people in the world have yet to fully grasp how many billions of world inhabitants will suffer cataclysmic health effects if the world descends into a prolonged Great Depression. It should also be noted that the implosion of the economy will not have been caused by a virus, but by the fear-induced public response to the virus. I also wonder if news and sports reporters have thought much about the myriad details of the new normal that they now seem to accept as inevitable and seemingly endorse. For example, has it occurred to sports journalists that many athletes they've previously covered may no longer have the opportunity to play the sports they love? Not because of COVID-19, but because their sport will have been abolished by cash-stripped athletic directors or league commissioners. Or, for that matter, why do journalists assume that publishers will be able to afford to pay sports reporters to cover future sports events that may still exist? Those who lobby for the cancellation of sports also give little weight to more immediate consequences these cancellations will produce. By canceling sports, millions of athletes will no longer have the opportunity to be a part of a team. Memories that would have lasted a lifetime and any lessons that sports may impart will be foregone. Players will be denied daily access to positive role models, including some coaches who become father figures to athletes. It's often said that sports, if nothing else, keeps kids, quote, off the streets. This cliche is true. Hanging out with the wrong crowd can in itself be deadly. That is, people who otherwise would have been at practice or eager to stay on the good side of their coach will now have more opportunities to make poor decisions and decisions that could jeopardize their health and produce lifelong detrimental effects. By framing the COVID debate largely in terms of positive cases, the media has created the narrative that all of us are at grave risk of becoming sick or dying when this is nowhere close to the truth. In short, the safety of athletes would not be jeopardized if sports seasons are allowed to continue this fall. The worst case scenario is that a tiny percentage of athletes may develop flu-like symptoms for a week or so. However, as 15 to 45 million Americans develop an influenza-like illness every year, this is a risk that has always existed without canceling sports. If they get their wish, those who advocate canceling sports seasons will almost certainly harm many more people than they save and will cause serious and perhaps lasting injury to pastimes that have made America a better place to live. And again, this is Bill Rice Jr. for Uncover DC. And that is the video for the day. If you guys appreciate the work that we're doing over at Uncover DC, you can support us going to Uncover DC and then the support tab here. Soon we will be launching monthly options. I really hope that everybody considers supporting Uncover DC on a monthly basis. No content will ever be behind a paywall, but we do need to keep the lights on, and you guys are going to be crucial to that, so I appreciate you all in advance. You could also support me at patreon.com/TracyBeans. You could also go and follow us on Twitter and socials at UncoverDC and at TracyBeans. Hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. We will see you back on Monday. Talk to you soon.